let's understand the self-join. And if you think about a company where you have a lot of employees, for example, so maybe you have Anna, you have Hubert, you have Schubert, and so on. So you have a couple of employees. A self-join might make sense because now you can, for example, assign Hubert to Anna, and Hubert can, for example, be the supervisor of Anna, and he can also maybe be the supervisor of Schubert. So in this case, a self-join might make sense to display the supervisor next to the employee, for example. So let's, for example, create that table, and let's say we are creating employees, for example. Every single employee will have an ID, for example, which is an int, unsigned, auto, increment, and a primary key. Now we also have a name that can be of type varchar, for example, 255. And right here we need an underline. And now we can also say that we want to have a manager ID, for example, that points to the manager of the person. This one can be, for example, an integer as well, unsigned, since those are the exact same attributes that we have saved for our ID. So manager ID should be equal. And now we can say that our manager ID is the foreign key by saying so, which references our employees. And right there, it references the ID. And here I need another E. So now let's execute that. And as you can see, we've created this table. Let's refresh. And now we have our employees. And now let's just insert a couple of employees right here. So we're going to execute that statement. We are now going to select everything from employees, like so. Let's execute. And as you can see, we now have an ID of 1 for Alice. She does not have a manager ID, so she might be the manager of the entire company. Now we have Bob with the ID of 2, and his manager ID is 1. So Elise is the manager of Bob. Same goes for Charlie. And now Dave has a manager ID of 2. So Bob is the manager of Dave and Eve, and Charlie is the manager of Frank. So this is how this works. So now we need to create a self-join to see the names of the managers, if we wanted to, for example, instead of the manager ID. So we can say we want to select everything from employees. Let's give them a shortcut of E. Let's do a left join again with employees. Let's say this time they have the shortcut EM. And let's now say on. And for E dot manager ID, we want to say replace the manager ID if it is equal to EM dot ID. So let's execute that code. And as you can see right now, we are seeing that Elise has a manager ID of 0. So for the left join, we are not getting any form of input because there does not exist a manager to her. For Bob, we have a manager ID of 1. So as a manager, we're getting Elise and so on. So we can also say now from E, we for example want to get our ID. We also want to get E.name, for example. And now let's say from EM, we also want to get the name. So let's query that one. And as you can see, we're getting an ID right here that is responsible for every single worker. We get the name of the worker. And right here, we get the name of the manager. So let's also say for that name, we will save that one as manager. So let's execute the code again. So this here is the manager, this is the name, and this is the ID. And I know this can be a little bit confusing, just test it a little bit and you'll definitely get the hang of it.